Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Vince Molinaro. Welcome to this episode of the Lead the Future podcast. One of the questions that I've been getting a lot from my customers is really, what is my take on the role that AI is playing in potentially transforming leadership development? I don't have a fully formed answer at this moment in time. So I think for this episode, let's go to one of the experts that is really a pioneer in this work. And that is our guest, Will Foussier. He is the co-founder and CEO of AceUp, and his belief is that we can do well by doing good in a way that fuels his passion for empowering others through a science-based, AI-powered leadership development and team coaching. And that's what AceUp is all about. And they're able to deploy his solutions at scale, which is very compelling. Will is a powerhouse of an individual. He's a Harvard, EHL, Techstar alumnus, Forbes 30 under 30 honoree, and has a background in entrepreneurship, social impact, and finance. And he founded AceUp out of the Harvard Innovations Lab to help organizations build human connections and thriving teams in facing the challenges of the new world of work. And since its launch in 2017, AceUp has raised more than $30 million in capital and has been deployed in more than 100 organizations, really marquee brands, including IBM, LVMH, L'Oreal, BNP, and others. Will is also a strategic advisor at the Institute of Coaching, which is affiliated with the Harvard Medical School and McLean Hospital, and a founding member of the Institute of Coaching Research Consortium for Human-Centered Leadership. And he partners with global business and HR leaders all over the world to create cultures of coaching that unleash individuals, teams, and organizational performance. Welcome, Will, to the Lead the Future podcast. So great that you took the time to be with us today. And I'm really looking forward to get your insights and expertise. So, well, why don't you start first by describing, AceUp, what the core purpose of your business is and your company, and then we'll dive into the questions.
Happy to do so, Vince. It's really a pleasure to be here with you and very excited for the conversation about AI and coaching. Happy to tell you more about what we do at AceUp. We are obsessed at AceUp about team transformation at scale. And we do that by leveraging AI and coaching and a specific subject matter expertise around systemic team coaching and the ability to coach individuals, not in silo, but in the context of how we help their team succeed, and ultimately the team of teams, the organization succeed.
And so, from your experience, as you've really, launched this business, to drive team coaching at scale enabled by AI, certainly AI is acting as a disrupting force in the whole coaching industry. And what's your take on the role that it can play to really take coaching to the next level and really add values to teams and leaders that you work with?
Yeah, happy to expand on this. Well, the first thing, when we think about coaching organization at scale, one of the largest challenge of the industry has always been to find a way to bring coaching at scale within organization, but not in a way that is siloed, not in a way that supports individual, in a way that might not be fully aligned with the need of the organization. And I profoundly believe in the power of coaching as a way to unleash individual leadership potential and help them upskill and reskill in critical leadership management capabilities. But there is actually a way to do that can simultaneously meet individuals where they are and address their individual development needs and goals, and also optimize how it actually helps their system, their environment, their team thrive, and ultimately support the goal of the organization. And one of the ways we can leverage AI and data in that process is actually creating smarter connection. So let me actually give you a concrete example. But before I jump on the example, let me just expand on the concept and what we're talking about. Coaches do an incredible work in adapting the coaching style to the need and goal of the individual, his or her personal and professional career journey, and how they can thrive in their environment, unleash their full potential. And sometimes there is a lot of data that is captured in that process that can really inform how we can help individuals better align their strengths, their focus to what is going to lead to the maximum impact for their team and the organization. And with AI, we can actually capture at scale through coaching conversation, always in a way that is highly confidential of the individual's data, happy to expand there, but ensure that we can understand what are systemic causes for maybe misalignments, lack of performance, or disengagement, and how ultimately we can both support this individual, but also through this systemic insight, really understand on the level of the program at the organization level, how we can overcome systemic challenges that can maximize alignments, engagement, ultimately performance. So AI is really here not as a way to replace the work that coaches do, but as a way to enhance their aggregated impact and ensure it's more correlated to the organization's needs.
Yeah, so and you already answered several of the questions I was going to ask you about. A misconception is AI is here to take over, the roles that many executive coaches play, and you feel pretty strongly that's not the case. It really amplifies the power of the coaching relationship by bringing that data and looking for those connections that can occur, particularly when your solutions are deployed at scale across an organization, really looking for those linkages, those common challenges and barriers, and bringing that insight to leaders. Is that accurate?
It is absolutely accurate. However, AI can take the job of some coaches. So happy to expand further about what is the full picture here of the scope of the disruption of AI in the field. I was actually
Well,
talking.
let's go there. Yeah, let's go there, because I think what's helpful is to sort of get a perspective of what is hype and what is real when it comes to AI and its disruptive potential around coaching. So I'd love your take on that.
Yeah, first of all, we have been seeing adoption of AI in organization in a more meaningful way for the past 2 years now. And ChatGPT has indeed transformed a lot of way we can actually bring technology to employees. And we see this disruption in the whole industry of HR technology. But what we see already pretty clearly from the data is if you just deploy an AI coaching solution with no human experts involved, and you do that in a way to make coaching more affordable, let's say to entry-level employees, new managers, it has some value proposition and impact. But overwhelmingly, we see an initial traction that is followed quite quickly by lack of utilization and engagement, due also to the lack of personalization and context. And ultimately, while we can find a way to accompany individuals in their journey, it often lacks organizations' context. And when we work with companies to bring AI to some individuals or employees in the organization, because it can absolutely expand the reach of the people that we support in the organization. But we simultaneously always ensure that we also support with human coaches other layers of the organization, from the middle management to the senior executives, so that we can bring the right level of personalization and impact. And so as we deploy AI to indeed touch a larger part of the population, the AI is actually nurtured by the context of how we work at the very top of the organization. This helps us find the right compromise, let's say, between AI to scale and democratize, and ensuring that there is a right level of personalization and context in the way we bring our solution to organization. And the last thing I would say about this, to get back to, are AI going to replace our job? I remember not long ago having the chance to discuss with David Peterson, who was the former director of leadership and coaching at Google, who unfortunately passed away during the pandemic. But at the time, we were already seeing the impact of AI. And he used to say something, look, if you're not a great coach, yes, AI is going to replace you. Absolutely. If the value proposition that AI coaching can bring today. And when we look at the data, we actually see that people use more and more ChatGPT, not to ask technical questions, but to ask questions about parent counseling or couple counseling, or how do I talk to my daughter or my son, or on this topic. And it's actually staggering to see how people lean into AI to talk more about questions that are profoundly human. So this is why you will have to be a great coach in this era to bring value beyond what the technology can provide. But there is no doubt for us in how we start monitoring how AI coaching is brought within organization, that the right way to do so is always the technology at some level and in some way to drive better connection, and the human experts at many other levels to drive this personalization and this context that is necessary.
Yeah, I mean that's a great insight. And I was recently at a conference where an AI technology guru was talking about some of the research that's already, it really echoes what you said. The reasons why people go to ChatGPT and what it is, it actually is for help, for support, in some ways. And what's interesting, and you and I have had this discussion, it actually that nature of gaining benefit and gaining support actually has its roots in the very early work in AI back in the early 70s by Joseph Weizenbaum at MIT, where he had developed what was a chatbot essentially to mimic a therapy session with Carl Rogers, which was just asking someone open-ended questions. This was a terminal, and as he was trying to figure out the programming in behind it, his team would volunteer to go on it. And he was surprised at how they felt better after spending time really with this inanimate object that just asked random questions to help them think about their situation. So there is inherent value by a technology just asking random questions that make people feel better, which in and of itself is valuable. But I think what you're saying is, and what I believe you and your team have been able to figure out, is really the integrated formula that captures. So what is the role of AI? How does it amplify the strength of a very strong coach? How do you create value to leaders and teams really, going through big challenges, right? Driving accelerated growth, driving transformation, multiple complex challenges at once. Their expectations are higher of the value they want from their coaches. And then the other part of your formula is it needs to be rooted in the context of the strategy of the company and what the company is trying to do. So it's not coaching for the sake of coaching. It is there to advance the strategic agenda of the company. And it sounds like to me, in our own lived experience, as our core team at LCI has benefited from your services, that's what we've appreciated, this formula of great coaching, enabled by AI, rooted in our strategy and what we're trying to accomplish as a business. And that formula, my sense is pretty powerful.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And it reminds me, something that not long ago, the CEO of NVIDIA was saying that really resonated. Don't be afraid of AI taking your job, but be terrified by people using AI in your job. And I think it's well summarized, because we have to think about AI, and there is risk and pitfall and ethical concern And actually, bringing AI to large enterprise, we are actively talking to the AI ethic councils of this company to navigate all the questions around data privacy and also the integrity of the data of the business itself. So there is a big question that we have to be very thoughtful and think critically about. But we have beyond that to think about AI as human augmented intelligence. And if we only think about AI as a way to automate things, then it's not transformation, it's automation, actually. We have to think about AI not necessarily as a way to do the process we navigate better, but as a way to really transform and bring a value proposition that we can't bring with our current strengths and tools and expertise. And to give you concrete example, for instance, as a coach, it's always difficult for me to provide the right value at the right time to my coaches in between sessions. Now think about AI being able to join a call I have with my coachee, capture some key context, and then in between session, it's going to see in the Slack conversation or in their Google Calendar that they may have a conversation with the direct reports. And it might be about performance management. And we just talked about, how they can improve the way they give feedback and drive performance and drive engagement. And we can nudge them in their Slack channel, just a few tips to remind them of their last coaching conversation on question that they practice and tactics that they wanted to experiment, and let them know how they want to use that during this conversation to maximize outcome. These are concrete way we can make the coaching more ubiquitous as an extension of the human, not as a way to replace it. Secondly, when you are a team leader in a team context and you actually not necessarily know exactly how you have to show up, what questions you have to ask based on the team dynamics, the possible misalignment, or the skill and performance gap, well, AI can tell you exactly where your team is at right now and how you can show up as a leader to bring them from where they are to where they need to be. And this is a way we can actually, as a coach, better drive the coachee in the flow of work and actually measure also how they are adopting specific behaviors and capabilities over time. And so a better way to oversee skill mastery as a result of coaching. So these are concrete ways to make coaching very tangible, AI coaching very tangible as a direct expansion of what we do as experts.
Yeah. So as you're talking, and you're so right, I'm thinking about the parallels to what's happening now in the role of AI as it's transforming coaching and leadership development, to the very early work of e-learning. I was old enough to be around at that time. And at the time, there was all the typical hype around it. It was going to transform training. Everyone is going to basically do self-paced learning, and there's clearly a role for that. But what we find is, most human beings don't do well in self-paced learning. If I take a public course, if I even get to myself enrolled in it, there's a 4% chance that I'll actually complete the course on my own. That ultimately learning is a social construct, and we learn better, with others. And in the context of an organization, when you're together with your peers, it's a powerful way to build a sense of community and learning together, so you can advance, the strategic outcomes of the organization. So it's interesting that there's many parallels there. The other thing that what you talked about that there's that is value is exactly that, right? It extends coaching from sessions with your coach to really integrating it into the flow of work, and that I think is also parallel to the work which is more of my expertise in formal leadership development programs, OD, where we have a digital platform that we use alongside facilitated sessions, whether in person, in rooms together or virtual rooms, that then really extends the classroom into the day-to-day. And I think that is also a formula for success moving forward.
Absolutely. And what I recently had the chance to be at the TED conference in Vancouver, and be part of a CHRO, CIO track. So really bringing together HR leaders and innovation leaders in large enterprise so that they can think together what is the right way to bring AI in a human-centered way. And I'm really fascinated to see the imperative on HR leaders today to accelerate the adoption of AI within the organization at every step of the employee experience. And so that's also something for us as practitioners, as coaches, to keep in mind in how we bring our practice to organization. There is today an expectation from CHRO that we bring in some way AI in our programming as a way to drive more impact, more scalabilities, more measurability of the outcome. But yes, something that, to get back to what you were saying, I believe very strongly in AI, and that came out of this conference in Vancouver, is the future of learning cannot be just about piling on more contents, piling on more coaching, piling more things. Because as you said, we've tried the world of LMS and self-directed learnings based on videos. And the truth is, more than ever, learning will have to focus on connection and human connection at first, but also the connection between our learning journey and the need of the organization we're supporting, the need of the mission we're trying to bring forward, about community. It has to find a way to bring people together through a learning experience. And AI can actually accelerate these by identifying patterns and inviting people to connect together based on the scope of their learning journey. Context, because it doesn't make sense for me to go on a LinkedIn learning platform and see a course, even if it's a great course, if it's without the context of what am I trying to achieve in my role and in the confine of the mission that I need to uphold. And this idea of ubiquity. Learning has to come to me. I don't have to come to the program or the training or the session. It has to come to me and meet me where I am at and at every step of my personal and professional journey so that I can absorb it and actually practice it in my environments. So I really think, as you said, that we see this evolution of learning that is boosted by the adoption of AI and technology, but that is also a learning process that appreciate what we have been doing well in the past in training and learning and management system, but also what is not working and what has to evolve and where we need to do better.
That's awesome. So, well, let's leave it there. You've given us a lot to think about, and also you've, with your company, have provided a way forward on how do we integrate the best of the capabilities that executive coaches bring, amplified by technology, in this case AI, and really anchored in the context and strategy of an organization to really support leaders in very significant ways. So thank you for the generosity of your time to join us today on the Lead the Future podcast, and wish you and your team continued success. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Vince.